To help support this podcast
and get exclusive bonus content and rewards,
make a monthly pledge at
patreon.com/universebox. And remember to think outside.
I'm Bill Meeks, and welcome to Universe Box. We're here for our very special Sampler Platter episode where we've taken some of the best bits from the first 7 episodes of Universe Box and throw them all into this lovely sampler platter to push out to our other podcasts to hopefully get you interested in the Universe Box show we're doing. It's pop culture news, entertainment news, and we're really proud of it, so we hope you check it out. You can subscribe over at universebox.com or just by searching Universe Box in iTunes, but I think Bill and Anne-Marie from the past are waiting for me to throw to them so they can start talking about all these great pop culture news stories. So take it away, Bill and Anne-Marie. Tonight on Universe Box,
we review The Good Place, Doctor Who introduces the class, and the Fraggles get remastered.
This is Universe Box. I'm Bill Meeks.
And I'm Anne-Marie DeSimone. This is Universe Box for September 20th, 2016.
Anne-Marie.
Hi.
Let's get into the news. Okay, so first up, Televisionary. We're searching, we're looking into the world of television and serialized streaming storytelling in Televisionary. We're going to talk a little bit about Once Upon a Time, which we used to do a podcast about.
You may have heard of Greetings from Storybrooke.
That's canceled now.
It's canceled.
We used to do the show about it. We don't anymore, but they just released, this week, they released a new trailer for Season 6. So we'll go ahead and play this a little bit and maybe talk a little bit about it. Anne-Marie, what did you think of the trailer overall?
I mean, the phrase, what's coming and how do we stop it, was said. And you know what? I feel like I've heard that phrase every 6 months or so on Once Upon a Time. Mm-hmm. Pretty much every half season when they're trying to figure out what's coming and how do they stop it. Mm-hmm. Hey, there it was. I'm over it, I think, is where we've gotten to. The threats they're not threatening. They're just becoming outlandish, and they're just like, yet they're very Disney. Mm-hmm. So it's like things that don't make sense, and then a literal Disney princess.
Yeah, and they definitely do seem to be leaning into the Disney even more so than usual, too.
And you know what? I think, honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the recast of Jafar because we did watch Wonderland. And they waited too long to bring over the Aladdin and Jasmine and Jafar and all of that story to the main show. And you know what? I think the viewers who would have responded well to that have either moved on or just really forgotten that story. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, and as for me, I thought that Aladdin and Jasmine looked pretty good, at least a little better than the new costumes they have for Aladdin and Jasmine at Disney World, because they've gone off model at Disney World now.
Let us not get me started on that story.
And we'll have links to this and all the stories at universebox.com attached to this episode, but they have new costumes for Aladdin and Jasmine. We're showing it on screen here.
Some people complain.
It's a little weird. It's a little ugly. Yeah, and I'm in this case, I'm glad that Once Upon a Time stayed on model for them, for the most part. But the weird thing is that at the same time, it seems like they're going even more on model for Beauty and the Beast, for Rumple and Belle, because we see in the trailer that they have very decked out, very much exactly like the movie Beauty and the Beast dance sequence with Belle in the yellow dress.
Oh, you mean like they did 2 seasons ago?
But that was in the sorcerer's house.
It was in like a ballroom in the sorcerer's house.
Yeah, but I mean, it was in the style of Beauty and the Beast.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't in the style. She was in the yellow dress. He was in the blue.
There was no chandelier. It wasn't these big sweeping camera angles. That's what you see in the trailer.
Right, but it still was the exact costumes.
Mm-hmm. But it was very similar costumes. I think the costumes are closer in this trailer that we saw here, but definitely very, very interesting. I also I'd love for the show to knock it out of the park this season, but after season 5, I'm pretty dubious about it. You know, time's going to tell, but we'll probably still be live tweeting it. So if you follow at GF Storybrooke. You might see some of our thoughts.
Oh, I'm sure we'll live tweet, and you know what? We're probably not going to hold back as much as we may have in the past.
Yeah, and let's see. RMG Geeked in the chat room says they brought in Frozen before the older princesses.
They brought in solid Frozen. They brought in, let us cut them out of the movie, and we might as well have had the actresses play their characters before they did that with like, I was going to say Rapunzel, but they didn't even do that. They did the complete disservice to her with Brave, basically. And it just wasn't done.
Okay, now, normally at this point, we do a segment called Suggestibles, which I'll go ahead and play the thing for. And normally it's me and Anne-Marie each suggesting something we think you might think would be cool. But we both had the same thing this week, so we're going to be actually reviewing one of the new series this year, The Good Place. Now, Anne-Marie, what's this series about?
Okay, after she is struck and killed by a tractor-trailer carrying a billboard for erectile dysfunction products, a woman named Eleanor wakes up to discover that she has entered the afterlife. But when she is told by her mentor, Michael, that she is in the good place because of her good deeds by helping innocent people get off death row, she realizes the mistake has been made as people think she is someone else with the same name.
And yeah, this stars Kristen Bell,
Ted Danson, and some guy who looks really familiar, and I can't place him.
Fair enough. But Anne-Marie, what did you think about The Good Place?
Okay, I big puffy heart this show because I love Kristen Bell. I love Ted Danson. Like, I still see him as like Cheers.
Really?
And my parents really like Cheers, so I saw it.
Well, I see him as a combination of his character on Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is Ted Danson, and Bored to Death, which is kind of like Ted Danson.
I don't know either of those, but I also know him from CSI, and he was on something else. Like, he's just always there.
CSI Cyber, right?
No, CSI Regular.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't know how I felt about them being on the show together. I remember, like, seeing the previews and the trailers and going, So, but they are hilarious together. Kristen Bell as Eleanor is exactly how I feel like my experience in The Good Place would be. Eat some froyo, cause some havoc, and try to get some flying lessons in. It's perfect. Ted Danson, on the other hand, is the perfect wacky cruise director, basically. So, thumbs up.
Yeah, it's definitely a good show. And we watched it over the course of a couple nights, and I've actually seen a bit more of it than you have.
I saw quite a bit while trying to find.
So sorry if there's any spoilers here. Let's see. Night RAF says, so the afterlife is as bad as at tracking people as the no-fly list. Interesting.
Yep.
Very true. And that's kind of the premise.
Yep.
And it gets more so as it goes on without getting too spoilery. But, it's a really funny show with a great premise. We really haven't seen a good show based around the concept of heaven since the Gary Coleman show. If you ever watched that cartoon back in the 70s where Gary Coleman played an angel. If you're not familiar with it, that's probably for the best.
Okay.
But, I can't think of one that was actually set in The Good Place, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't think of one that's been set in heaven. There was like Highway to Heaven. There was Touched by an Angel. There was the Gary Coleman show. I can't think of any that were actually set in heaven, like for the entire series.
I can't either.
But, Ted Danson in the series is great, of course. Kristen Bell is a little raunchier than I like her from Veronica Mars and all that, but she's still shaking that Frozen stink off of her, so you can kind of understand
You haven't seen Bad Moms.
Well, I think that's part of it. I think that's part of the make Kristen Bell less Anna sort of.
Yes
push.
And no. I mean, she's married to Dax Shepard. Like, come on.
That's very true. Which, by the way, I used to serve him coffee at a Starbucks in Santa Monica.
Nice.
True story. The real standout to me, though, in the series is Darcy Carden as Janet, the automated helper that anybody can summon to do their bidding. She's kind of like
and no one can access her history.
She's like a walking Wikipedia or Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or something like that.
Or Siri.
Or Siri, yeah, definitely. Her bits in episode 3 where she takes Danson's instructions a little too literally are particularly funny because they showcase her comedic range. She plays like 6 different versions of the character throughout the episode.
Yeah. I also have noticed that over the past few years, I am watching very few straight comedy shows. I feel like when I was like in high school, there was a lot of comedy shows that I watched all the time. Now I'm not watching any of those. Hopefully The Good Place will have some staying power since it's starting off so strong. But really, how long can they keep up the ruse that Eleanor doesn't belong there?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll shift. Maybe after season 1. Maybe it'll shift to something else. But
It'll be the bad place.
Yeah, possibly. Over in the chat room, Joel Van Rockenberg says he loves Cheers, currently on the fourth season on Netflix, and then also bored to death, needed more episodes. And then Monica mentions 13th Floor. But that doesn't take place in The Good Place either. It might be a while since I've seen 13th Floor, but I don't remember there being like a heaven aspect to it. I remember it being kind of like a poor man's Matrix. Okay, but as we do on our other fan cast, or our fan cast, our arbitrary scale, Anne-Marie, out of 15 puppies kicked into the sun, which is something that actually happens on the show. How many puppies kicked into the sun do you give this show?
I'm going to give it 12 for now. Like I said, I still have some reservations about how we're going to keep this up. But I love Kristen Bell, so I probably will just keep watching and watching forever.
Yeah, and I mean, even just the promotional poster with her and Ted Danson sitting on the yellow couch
that matches our logo perfectly,
which was just fantastic. But
what the fork?
I mean, I just really like and all the fork stuff for sure.
So many forks.
But I'm going to give it 14 puppies kicked into the sun because I think it has a really strong start. I think they have enough to at least get a really good first season out. Let's see what they do with the second season, of course. But it has a really strong, rich mythology to it too.
Yeah.
Which is good this early in a series.
Right.
What's in the box? You're about to find out. We've each selected a special story to discuss. Let's pop open the Universe Box.
So it is the end of an era.
The end of an
era.
era.
There are many, 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 many people that are mourning the end of the Electrical Light Parade at the Magic Kingdom this week. I am not either. This parade was fun as a child, but absolute, complete torture as an adult. Heck, it frequently was a nuisance just blocking our path from ride to ride.
Yeah, when we had Disney annual passes, we would basically, if we heard
we would plan around the parade.
We would run away from parades like a zombie apocalypse was coming upon us.
Except for the dancing one. We like the dancing one. Because it played,
Well, you could also walk through that one because it just came to a stop and then hung out there for like half an hour.
Yeah, and then the kids are dancing with like Phineas and Ferb. Let's see what nuisance blocking our path from ride to ride, getting the music stuck in our head for days. It's already in my head just from talking about this article. I hope that there will be a new show or parade to replace it soon, but with better music.
Yes, definitely.
So have fun at Disneyland.
Weren't they talking about bringing over the parade from California Adventure or something?
Okay, I think they're doing like a little bit of a swap for the coasts because Electrical Light is going to have a limited engagement at Disneyland. And there's discussion, rumor, but nothing confirmed that Paint the Night is the very recently retired parade show thing at Disneyland, to have a limited engagement at Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, over in the chat room, Angel T says, as someone who rarely gets to visit either Disney park, I always thought that the electrical parade was pretty.
Okay, see, and this is what I'm telling you. When I was I have these amazing memories from when I was in 4th grade and I went to Disney. However, from the very second we saw it the first time coming back, it was torture. It was torture.
Well, it was always because we were trying to...
Except for the one time that we actually got stuck. We got completely separated and stuck and could not cross it. We were at the very beginning of the parade. Me and one child, or 2 children on one side, him and another on the other. We could see each other. We could almost touch. We could not escape the parade and got to see the whole thing.
That
was okay.
I think the problem was that it was always keeping us from doing something because we were trying to pack a bunch into the day.
And it's nighttime. People are getting cranky.
Okay, for my Universe Box, YouTube today has gamified reporting videos. Now they released this video this week announcing their new program, YouTube Heroes. It aims to award points for, among other things, flagging videos with inappropriate content, quote unquote inappropriate content, because YouTube has cracked down in recent months on controversial content. A lot of times they've been taking videos down even if they just discuss a topic they deem too controversial.
Seriously?
To kind of increase ad revenue and get more bigger companies buying ad, because they don't want someone talking about, I don't know, just to go extreme with it, like Black Lives Matter or something, and have a Ford ad on it or something like that, So they've been getting a little too loosey-goosey with the censorship on there. And in this video, they even encourage their heroes to mass flag videos. They literally show a user going to a channel page, right here, and just clicking and reporting all the videos without watching them.
Please don't do that.
Yeah, it's icky. Rewarding reporting is a good way to get a lot of false flags, too. So as much as they think this is going to help them, I think it's actually going to give them a lot more content to look through and try and block. I'm a total free speech nut. So this, it just doesn't sit well with me. Mm-hmm. In fact, it kind of reminds me of this good citizenship program that was in the news from China a couple months back, where they were trying to gamify being Chinese government. I feel like this is going to backfire on YouTube in a big way. Big way. Even so, just now already, the announcement video already has almost 300,000 thumbs down to 4,000 thumbs up.
Nice.
So if that tells you anything,
it'll be gone then. If people don't like it, it will be gone.
Hopefully.
That's the way they do it.
Over in the chat room, Angel T says, "Thank you," and yay, they finally did the thing. Been waiting for Patronuses since Pottermore's beta years. Back to the Pottermore thing.
Yeah.
But what do you think about this, Anne Marie? About the whole Heroes program?
I do not like the mass reporting of videos. While there are some that are completely and utterly scammy. Mm-hmm. And should be mass reported. Let's not make that easy, because, you get into a fight with somebody, or somebody just doesn't like your attitude because you have a certain opinion about, certain movies or something like that. And they could just go through and go on all your stuff.
Yeah. And the Derby Kid over in the chat room says YouTube seems like they're being lazy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Basically, they're just trying to crowdsource community moderation or community management.
They don't want to pay people.
You think YouTube would be able to pay 50 people to do that, to increase their community. Throw on your headphones and warm up your pipes. We're going to make sure your modern music knowledge is in tune.
So Bob Dylan plots a massive 36-disc set of 1966 live recordings.
66 live recordings.
Okay, so he's in the process of organizing 36-disc set from the spring of 1966, with recordings from soundboards and studios to audience tapes. We will get a glimpse of what it was like to see Bob Dylan in concert in the 60s.
Bob Dylan in concert in the 60s.
Yeah. So I have thoughts. It's cool to get a glimpse in the past. While I'm not like a die-hard Bob Dylan fan, that it's really cool because you don't get as much live recordings. Like now, everybody does a live album at one point or another. If they do that type of thing. But it would be neat to hear that, because you get those things that you only get in live performance in concerts. You get the chat, you hear the crowd, and you get all that. However,
you get the crowd.
It does seem a little excessive that it needs to be a 36-disc set.
It's a lot of music.
That's a lot of music. And wouldn't they all be pretty much the same, since the recordings were all concerts?
All from one tour?
2 months. 2 months. It's like April and May of 1966. Like, cool. Did you ever do another concert? Did nobody ever record anything else? Mm-hmm. Or were these just really, really good? And you have to sit there for 4 days.
The thing about Bob Dylan, though, is that he kind of grew up on the folk classics and the jazzy, bluesy classics. So he probably, even back in those days, he probably knew 100 songs off the top of his head. If he played 20 or 30-minute sets, or an hour set even, there'd be plenty of variety. He'd probably play, Blowing in the Wind, and then he'd play, a bunch of other stuff from, all sorts of, like Woody Guthrie and that sort of thing. But I like this story just because I love that the article mentions that they used a lot of audience recordings, a lot of literal bootlegs where people would put a tape recorder in their bootleg to record the concert. Do people still even bootleg concerts with decent sound quality anymore?
No, they stream them live on Facebook.
Yeah, they record those crappy cell phone videos and everything. But does anybody still take the time to adjust levels and use a decent mic? I know back, because I used to be really big into the Bare Naked Ladies bootleg scene back in the day. And people would take mini disc recorders, hook up a decent mic to it, do a lot of, mixing after the fact. they took a lot of pride in it.
Okay, I don't think people do that nearly as much now because, as previously stated, everyone puts out a live album at one point or another. Mm-hmm. So there's not as much of a need to bootleg it.
But one of the reasons I always liked bootlegs is because you hear all these little variations on songs that you think like either the lyrics will be a little different, they'll throw an extra half verse in, or just the way they perform it will be different. And you can listen to like Bare Naked Ladies Falling for the First Time. I listened to a bunch of bootlegs from the Maroon tour. In every concert, it was just a little bit different.
Well, they were crazy.
They are crazy about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see, over in the chat room,
They're still talking Angry Birds. Night
RAF says, I think someone couldn't decide and said, let's just use them all.
Yep, that's pretty much what it was like.
We're in tune right now.
We are in tune.
So what's our next story, Anne-Marie?
Kanye's huge loan. So the Kardashian plot thickens. While the world jumped up in support of Kim Kardashian after she was robbed in Paris 2 weeks ago, it turns out the whole thing might have been a setup.
Might have been.
So Kanye West took out a $1.6 million line of credit just months before the disappearance of his wife's $5 million worth of jewelry. Okay, and what
a coinky-dink.
Right, and all I have to say is, how is this man so broke? Albums, tours, merchandise out the wahoo. Like, he still had to borrow this relatively large line of credit against his condo. Mm-hmm. This makes me think more and more that this raid was staged. # sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, and I have a feeling she was talking about the Janet Jackson story, but I think this applies here too. Angel T in the chat room says celebrities are not bound by the same rules.
Nice. And Monica took a break to look at the Rogue One trailer. So.
Yeah, she doesn't care about Kanye. But I lean towards the raid being staged as well, mainly because it makes for a much cooler story that way.
Yeah.
I think it's much more interesting than, she got robbed in Paris. She got robbed in Paris by herself. That's a lot cooler. I mean,
she paid the guys to rob her.
And I mean, if anybody could pull off a high-profile heist on himself and his wife, it's easy. My one fear is that if it was staged, he might be heading to prison soon for a very, very long time, which means we're going to have a severe lack of news from Kanye coming up in the future. Definitely. Night RAF in the chat room, by the way, says if there's one thing, one seeming constant, it's that celebrities are bad with money.
Okay, that's true.
That's
very true.
Yeah, but by the same token, though, and I know Kanye and Kim have been kind of getting upset about this accusation that it might have been them, but
they've got to see how publicly. It looks that way.
Yeah, you can definitely see how it would be upsetting though if it was an actual robbery.
Right.
They're like, no, you're just doing this it's another publicity stunt from Kanye. Okay, so now comics, novels, Dr. Seuss, as long as you can read it, we've indexed it and shoved it in a folder. Let's crack open the bibliophile.
So Game of Thrones is teaming up with Apple to celebrate their 20th anniversary. Mm-hmm. Apple, in its constant quest to dominate every entertainment vertical?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know that one. Has teamed up with George R.R. Martin to publish a new digital edition of Game of Thrones featuring tons of supplementary material like family trees, seagulls. Apparently I can't read tonight. And glossaries to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the book. It also includes an excerpt from the much-anticipated new Game of Thrones book, The Winds of Winter, which Martin still hasn't technically finished because he's too busy writing glossaries.
I would like to say over in the chat room real quick, Angel, who will be joining Simba in Africa, says she'll spend the whole time hanging out with Timon and Pumbaa's Paradise Home.
She's eating bugs.
Okay, so what do you think about this, Anne-Marie?
Okay, I'm not going to lie. I still haven't read Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. I must be like one of 12 people in America. And hasn't seen the show either. However, if I was going to, I don't anticipate this being the way that I would read it. I don't like to read on a tablet. I like to read in a book. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of really frustrating to me, and I get why they're doing it, but it's still frustrating that all of this extra information, which I love extra information, they give me little fold-out maps and stuff like that, is only available in iBooks.
Yeah.
I hate iBooks. Like, they automatically keep putting it on things, and I'm like, no, I don't use the iBooks.
See, I'm more of an e-ink fan. Like, I really like the e-ink experience.
But that's still different, though.
It feels like reading a printed page.
It doesn't have the smell and the turn, and you can't fold things and highlight properly. Notes and margins. Like, there's just something about a book.
Mm-hmm.
So...
That's fair.
Now he needs to get back to writing because the fans are about to like revolt.
They've been that way for a couple of years.
I know, but it's getting worse.
Yes, definitely. Like you, I'm not a huge Game of Thrones fan. I've seen the first couple seasons, and I've read the summaries for the rest of the books and stuff. But I think this is a great way to do a special digital release.
Okay.
Well, it's just a lot of these releases seem to take on. Like put in animations and movies and zippity zoodahs and all that kind of stuff. And this really sounds like just a few guidebooks and some keys to the universe with hyperlinks within the novel itself. That cross-referencing of information is super powerful and doesn't try to turn books into something more flashy, something they're not. Now, I'm sure they'll probably have some screen grabs from the show or something in there, maybe a couple clips. But, really the bigger surprise is that the next book still doesn't have a release date. Because I remember people complaining about this years and years ago. HBO is already adapting the book that still hasn't come out and has no release date.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to be done with the entire series before he releases it at this point.
Right, which is a little weird because what if he changes things? Because I'm assuming that's part of the reason.
Yeah,
but it's not done.
Really, at this point, you need to get your stuff together, George.
A little bit.
It's getting
sit your booty down at the computer and get typing, man.
Stop going to all these Comic-Cons and visiting the set and just buckle down on your old. I believe he uses an old DOS.
No.
He uses WordStar on DOS to write his books.
No.
So like an old 386 computer. So sit down at that 386, clicky clacky, write your book. Come on, George.
All right, this week we have a little bit more Doctor Who news. I know
a lot of it.
Okay, a lot of it of Doctor Who news. So a double dose of Doctor Who news came out of New York Comic-Con this past week. A peek into the upcoming Christmas special and a first look at the spin-off series Class. Without Peter Capaldi being the common thread, I'm not sure I would have known that these two were even cousins. So, first, the return of Dr. Mysterio is the Doctor Who Christmas special. And we got a little video. It's mostly like some behind-the-scenes stuff, but you get a little bit of an idea of the tone of the Christmas special. And it looks like it's going to be so much fun, which is what I love about Christmas specials. The U.S. should do that, like the U.K. does. But there are a lot of dark and seriousness in the Whoniverse. Whoniverse. Over the past few years, and I think it'll be a nice breath of fresh air to have just a fun Christmas episode, especially since it's been about a year since we've had a new Doctor Who episode.
But Anne-Marie, you're leaving the headline on the floor here.
What's the headline on the floor?
The main antagonist, companion, etc., is going to be a superhero.
We talked about that already.
No, we didn't.
We talked about the superhero.
We didn't talk about it in this episode, though.
Okay, go ahead.
I just, I wanted to point out, and we might have pointed this out last time, too, but Dr. Mysterio is the superhero's name, and that's what Doctor Who is called in Mexico.
Oh.
I have Dr. Mysterio graphics here, and we'll have links to these stories and these resources I've pulled up about Dr. Mysterio at universebox.com in the show notes for this episode.
That's a very sassy graphic you've got there.
It is, definitely.
Let's make that graphic go away now. Thank you.
Okay, but my one concern about this is that outside of the occasional Dalek invasion, the modern-day Earth on the show is generally equivalent to our Earth. So I'm guessing this means the special is going to be set in the future or on another planet. That being said, I'm super pumped. The character is said to be based on Moffat's love of Superman. I love Superman, so of course I'm on board. The Doctor is a bit of a superhero in his own right, so it'll be interesting to see those methodologies clash.
Interesting.
And over in the chat room, Wynn says she's about 3 seasons behind on Doctor Who.
As is Bobby.
As is Bobby. Sorry about that, guys.
It happens.
It's
Sorry.
good, though.
We like it.
Check out Capaldi.
Okay, so this...
go ahead.
The spin-off series Class looks to be absolutely amazing. While Doctor Who has a very classic style, like it's been pretty consistent throughout, Class feels like it's a more modern interpretation of the Hooniverse. It's darker, it's edgier, it has those modern twists and turns, and I think it's going to give me the good type of nightmares.
Definitely. It does look very interesting. It's done. I forget the gentleman's name, but he's a young adult book author, and you could definitely
you
feel
get that. You get that for sure.
Oh, for sure. And
sure.
Yeah, it definitely looks interesting. Obviously, the Doctor is in the trailer. You see that he's going to be in the first episode. It looks like, and it seems like he's probably there to just get the show off the ground. I wonder though why they changed the name from Coal Hill School to Coal Hill Academy. I don't know if they're trying to feed into that whole like Monster High Academy thing that is so prevalent in media for the youths today. But the school has a lot of connections to the Doctor's history. His first adventure in Unearthly Child was there, actually. So it'll be interesting to see how this new threat is connected to the Doctor and why he needs to be there to kind of get these kids off and running.
Yeah.
It looks interesting. I'm not promising I'm going to stay with the series the whole way through, but I'm at least going to check out the first couple episodes.
Oh, absolutely. You got to see what it's about.
Yeah, over in the chat, a lot of people are saying, they're not caught up on Doctor Who. Monica says more like 5 seasons behind here. Wynn says I don't have cable, so I can't keep up with most shows. And Bobby says he watched the first few episodes with Capaldi. And Angel theorizes that maybe it's Academy because it sounds fancier, maybe.
No, I don't know.
Academy does sound fancier, though. She does have a point.
It does sound fancier. But I'm thinking maybe it's to separate from the Coal Hill School that we saw on Doctor Who.
Well, I think this is going to be the same.
A different school.
Penfold says Patrick Ness is the author. Thank you very much. But it says in the teaser here, Doctor says I was the curator at your school at one time, and that was from a Clara episode. When because Clara worked at Coal Hill School.
We don't talk about her. Is Disney buying Netflix?
Oh gosh!
Speaking of Orlando, rumors are circulating that Disney may be looking to purchase the streaming service giant Netflix. Investors started speculating recently about a merger after the spike in Netflix's stock. Since Netflix owns the rights to streaming Disney movies, this buyout does kind of make sense.
So, Anne-Marie, what do you think about this?
Okay, so I am a Disney addict as much as many, many people I know, but they need to stop buying everything. Like, I'm afraid that if they do end up buying Netflix, that we're going to lose a lot of what makes Netflix awesome, like the original programming and having shows and movies from a variety of studios and networks. I don't want this to be like the glorified Disney Channel.
Yeah.
And, that would be cool and all, but do it just like...
Build your own thing. Don't buy the other thing.
Yes and no, because if they build their own thing, then we need to buy that too. So I'd like to just stick to Netflix.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same idea as you. I really hope this doesn't happen, but I also think it kind of sounds like a bad rumor. Netflix is a very successful company that doesn't need a buyout or saving from a big corporation or anything. That's one of the big reasons why I think it's a bad rumor. It's just bad info. The article mentions subscriber numbers dipping, but they still have the majority of the market. Yeah. They're a very strong company at the top of their industry, really. So I think this is all a bunch of crap, honestly. Netflix is also the most successful new media company like ever. Yeah. I would hate for Disney to get its hands on it and bring it down to the lowest common denominator like they've done with other properties like Marvel, Pixar, and Star Wars. I think
dude, he just said something like kind of positive about original Star Wars.
Yeah, I do. I feel like they sort of homogenize all three of these major properties: Marvel Studios, Pixar, and Star Wars. I'm not a big fan of Star Wars. Mind, but I do think that it's a little bit less now that Disney's involved and they're coming out with 60 million movies, 60 million cartoons, and it's diluting the brand. Netflix has this really strong brand, sort of Marvel, Pixar, and Star Wars, and it kind of gets wishy-washy. You get good dinosaurs and, Thor 2s and things like that, where... when it was more of an independent thing, you didn't. So, you know, I feel like Disney needs to stop gobbling up smaller companies with a strong identity and start focusing on innovating within their own company. Anything over in the chat room, Anne-Marie?
Let's see. Bobby says that Netflix is already having less and less contact, and each of the studios are starting to build their own streaming services like CBS All Access. Night RF says, yeah, I'm not a fan of this trend of content producers and distributors consolidating. No one wants to subscribe to 6 different services to watch programs.
Yeah, and the bad part is that if you have 1 or 2 or 3 companies controlling everything, then you're only getting 1 or 2 or 3 perspectives.
Right.
At the end of the day, because I mean, you know, obviously you have a myriad of creators at all of these companies, but by the same token, you have the guys at the top signing the checks are all the same guys, you know.
Right. So, you know, and this really scares me after there's rumors about Disney buying Twitter.
Yes.
And you know what? Stop.
I don't want Disney controlling my reality.
No, they already control enough of it. No more.
But now it's time to dance your cares away. Worries for another day. Let the music play. Down on HBO. Okay, what's the story, Anne-Marie?
So by the end of 2016, audiences will be sent back to the 80s with digitally remastered episodes of Fraggle Rock coming back to HBO. The 96-episode series dealing with friendship and tolerance, all told by puppets, has received many awards over the years.
So what are your thoughts here?
Yay, Fraggles! However, I was never really like a super crazy fan like most people our age are, but I liked him. However, this is basically feels like Disney bringing things back from the vault, and not terribly exciting. They just like cleaned them up a little. So
yeah,
you know, Fraggles.
Yeah, my reaction was kind of the same. I was all excited at first when I saw Fraggle Rock is coming back.
Right.
But then I saw it was 3 masters. Still, maybe HBO is using this as a sort of a gauge to gauge interest for a reboot down the road. Now, I met a few of the original puppeteers from Fraggle Rock a couple of years ago, and they're probably too old to be doing a full-time puppeteering show, but I'm sure they could find sound-alikes pretty easily, or maybe have them do the voices and have someone else puppeteer it or something. Yeah. But, you know, with Sesame Street and Fraggles on HBO, I'm hoping we get dinosaurs at some point. Now, my question for you, Anne-Marie, and for you guys in the chat room, who was your favorite Fraggle?
Red?
Red? You liked Red?
That's literally the only one I can remember the name for.
Oh, okay. That's fair. That's fair.
So probably. She was crazy. She had pigtails.
As for me, I'd have to say my favorite Fraggle was Uncle Traveling Matt.
Of course it was Uncle Traveling Matt.
Who would write letters to his nephew Gobo. Was it Gobo or Gobi? Gobo. Basically the main character. But you know, about his adventures in outer space, which was our world. So I always loved Uncle Traveling Matt. Over in the chat room, let's see.
Mobley.
What's Mobley or Wembley? Yeah. Monica Squeeze. She loves her some Fraggle Rock. Bobby says if enough get watched, maybe they'll make new ones. Angel says she's showing her age, but by admitting that she only vaguely knows what Fraggle Rock is. Bobby's favorite is Wembley. Monica's is Moki and Wembley. And Monica's is also Gobo. She has a lot of favorites. And Bobby says, or Uncle Matt. Uncle Traveling Matt. Gotta love Bill. Uncle Traveling Matt. It's Gobo.
You've been corrected.
It is Gobo.
Or confirmed.
Yes, excellent. Awesome. Okay.
Bill was right.
Okay, well, now it's time for some takeaways where we kind of, the takeaways we got from the episode.
We fly by the seat of our pants.
First off, Power Rangers isn't just for kids anymore.
The electrical light parade is going to be...
Anne-Marie, I do the takeaways. Okay, thank you very much. Muggles, as stupid as it sounds, is actually a pretty good term when you have something to compare it to. Fraggle Rock will never die in our hearts or on HBO. And the Electrical Light Parade is dead. And good riddance.
Wow. I tried to be nice. You, however, did not.
Let's see, over in the chat room, Tensor Guy says, I had a Stretch Armstrong. Does that count?
Absolutely.
Only if he had fur. Contradictions. Anne-Marie, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at DeSimone or check out my blog, crunchycrafty.com.
As for me, you can follow me on Twitter at Bill Meeks. You can follow all of the podcasts we do at universebox.com. And we remind you to join us here Thursday, 10 p.m. EST, for another episode of Universe Box. It's amazing. It's
Take
a good
our
show.
survey, bit.ly/UB survey.
Yes, definitely. And we want to thank our chat room,
Thank you.
Tensor Guy and Bobby and Monica and Penfold and
Angel
and all the rest. We love each and every one of you so much. It's amazing.
Hearts.
So, Anne-Marie, I guess that about does it for this week.
Yes.
So, until next time, remember to think outside. Thank you for joining us for our very special Sampler Platter episode. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, go over to universebox.com. There's links to the RSS feed, to iTunes, all of that. Or just go to iTunes and search for Universe Box. You're going to want the Universe Box with the yellow logo, not the white logo that says Universe Box Classic. But till next time, remember to think outside.